probably a good indication that it is time to shut up and end this video. Anyways, Hey guys, what's up? It's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. I've had a lot of new subscribers lately, so if you're new here, welcome. I thought it would be fun for today's video to just kind of highlight and talk about my favorite indie romance authors. If you guys have been following me for a while, you'll know that other than Boys of Tommen, the overly hyped popular series, it's not overly hyped, it's great. I do want to start by saying though, I started reading that series way before it was ever popular, okay? Like I was reading that back in 2022, so just wanted to get that out there. But anyway, other than those books, I read a lot of hidden gems. I read a lot of indie romance, KU, dark romance, taboo authors. And so I get a lot of DMs on my Bookstagram looking for more recommendations. I get a lot of people sending me recommendations. I don't know. I just feel like indie authors need some more love and appreciation. No, don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite authors are published and they write absolute bangers, but like I said, there's just something about the indie, okay? They are hidden gems for a reason. So let's just talk about those authors. So first I want to talk about S. Massery. Now, I first read S. Massery back in December of 2022 when Brutal Obsession was released. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that this book kind of altered my brain chemistry. I've talked about it in a lot of recommendation videos, primarily for bully romances. I just think if you want a great bully romance, S. Massery is a great author to look into. Now, not all of her romances are bully romances. She primarily writes enemies to lovers, but they are like, they cross a lot of lines, so they kind of fall more into the bully format. But the first book in the Hockey God series is obviously Brutal Obsession, and the Hockey God series is a dark hockey romance. And what's great about this series is that the first half of the books cover college and then the second half of the books cover the NHL. So it's really fun to see these characters grow and mature, I guess. But like I said, it's a companion novel series, so it's found family. So you really get to see these characters grow with each other. You should read them in order just because each book is a total wild time. But this one is really great. It is a bully romance. Our male main character, he breaks the female main character's leg in the prologue and then wants to destroy her before she can destroy his hockey career. Do with that information as you will. It is a great read. And then the second book in that series is another bully romance, but this is going to be a stepbrother-stepsister relationship, so you're going to have taboo themes here. So if you're into taboo romances, definitely check this one out. Secret Obsession was one of my absolute favorites in the series. This one is going to be bully, and it is going to be ex-boyfriend's brother. And what is so great about this one is that the male main character, he has been in love with her for like a year, and then she chose his brother, and so he wants to make her pay for that. Also, what's great about this book is the main character in this story is dealing with substance abuse problems, and so it's just kind of, it's interesting to read that in a female perspective rather than the male main character. I read a lot of books where the male main character has substance abuse problems, and so it's just interesting to see it through the eyes of the female main character. And what's also interesting about this book is that our male main character is so obsessed and loves her so much, he doesn't want her drinking alcohol all the time, so he crosses a lot of lines and boundaries to make sure she doesn't drink. It's a fun time. And then the fourth book is my favorite, and that is Twisted Obsession. Now, this is going to be a reverse age gap between a professor and a hockey player. So this one is interesting because it has a setup prequel novella. You don't have to read it. What's really great about it is if you read that, you know kind of the mystery going into this. If you don't read it, you don't know. So basically, our female main character in the story, when it starts, she has amnesia. She doesn't remember the last several years of her life. And when our male main character is at a hockey game and sees her in the crowd, he has been looking for her for a really long time. She was his professor back in the day. Now he's in the NHL. And so in the prequel novella, you see them falling for each other, and then something happens at the end of that story where she gets amnesia. If you just go into this book, you don't have any of that setup. So you can kind of read them however you want, but this one is great. This one showed me that reverse age gaps are really great. And then the last book in that series is Fierce Obsession, and this is actually going to be okay, how do I explain this one? This one is like a former marriage, second chance, I hate you, I'm not letting you go. Basically, our two main characters have been married for a long time, and our male main character is not going to divorce her. So it's just fun stuff. Like I said, it's in the NHL, not college instead. So you are going to see these characters grow with each other. All right, and then another one by S. Massery is the Fallen Royals trilogy. Now, this is a trilogy that has recently been revamped. So I believe this was like her first series that she ever wrote. So I ended up reading this, I think the holidays last year, and I rated them like 3.5, 4 stars just because they weren't the best. When you go from reading The Hockey Gods to this, like, you can definitely tell how her writing improved. So I have not read the revamped series yet, but I'm really excited to. But basically the original series, it's a bully. Like I said, S. Massery just kind of writes a lot of bully. They've been in love with each other since they were little kids, and then something happens because she doesn't come from the best home life, and she's sent away into the foster care. And from what happens when she's sent away, basically the entire student body and him end up hating her. And then years later, she ends up returning for high school, and he is just really upset that she's back. And so it's kind of one of those classic bully romance formulas. But like I said, I'm really excited to dive into the revamped version, because the original version, our male main character was not an athlete, and in this one, she has made him a hockey player. So I already know she can write great hockey romances, so I'm really excited to try the revamped. But yeah, that's just some S. Massery. She has also co-wrote with some authors. I believe I talked about that on my dark hockey romance recommendation video, some enemies to lovers books there, but go check her out. She's got a great backlog. But like I said, if you want some great hockey bully romances, there's a whole list there for you. All right, so next up I have KV Rose. KV Rose writes very out of the box, different type of dark romances, I think is the best way to describe it. She is the author of the Ecstasy series and so many other different books. I'm actually on a reread right now because the 4th book in this series is supposed to come out in June. But like I said, if you want very out there, different type of romances, check out KV. The Ecstasy series I've talked a lot about, but it's different. So Ecstasy is a love triangle relationship. Our female main character is drugged out all the time. So I guess another female main character with substance abuse. Just interesting to get that POV. And then her boyfriend, and then his roommate that is obsessed with her. And then the next 2 books, The Ominous Duet, which is like one of my favorites, follows that roommate and all of his psychopathic tendencies, but it's a prequel of him in high school. You have to read them all in order to make sense. But KV, oh my gosh, I just have to say, she has even posted on her stories that writing this series and in Eli Addison's mind is so much that she sometimes has to take a pause from it. But if you want psychopathic, mental health, all that difference, look up KV. Like I said, so that's the Ecstasy series. She's also written Verglass. Now, I have not read this one yet, but one of my good friends has. It's one of her favorites. This is a taboo toxic love triangle, another toxic love triangle, but it's in a college with her stepbrother and then a coach. And it's this weird game. Like, the game is called Verglass, and it's like a rugby type of game. I don't know. I'm super excited to read this one, but this is just another KV book. She's also written the Unsainted series, which I read the first book. It's like a mafia-esque. It's different. Like, it's so hard to describe because you need to be reading it. It's just, they're a trip. I don't know how else to describe it. So if you really want some different out-of-the-box romances, KV Rose is a great one. Then we have Greer Rivers. This is another author that I have talked a lot about in dark romance recommendation videos, but this author has done the Tattered Curtain series. All of these are retellings of famous stage productions rather than fairy tales. So my favorite is Phantom. I've talked about this one a lot, but this is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. If the Phantom gets the girl in the end. It's a modern day New Orleans setting. It's great. The Phantom is like the head of the New Orleans mafia, and he's living in the tunnels underground. There is great bipolar representation because Greer herself is bipolar, and so she got to talk about that experience. The next one in that series is Rouge. This is a Moulin Rouge retelling. It takes place in Las Vegas. It's a forced marriage trope. Our male main character is part of the Irish mafia, so really, really fun there. And then the final book is Dreadful, and this is a Sweeney Todd Medusa retelling. This one is so fun, especially to read at Halloween, I think. Our two main characters were both tortured and abused as little children by members of the church, and in the prologue, they both try to help each other escape, and in that process, they both think that the other one got caught. And so what's great about this story is that these two characters then spend the rest of their adult lives trying to avenge the other one until they come together and realize that they're both out there. So, like I said, Tattered Curtain series, these are currently the only books that I have read by Greer. I have more on my backlist that I want to read, but if you are a big fan of retellings, but you want like something other than a fairy tale, these are just great. I also had the pleasure of being able to beta read these last two, so just fabulous. She's a great author to work with. Her husband is also really, really nice and funny with all of his communication emails, so just go check these out if you like retellings. Next, I have an author that's pretty much become one of my favorites right now. Like, anytime she has a new release, I'm gonna run out and read it. Doesn't even matter what it's about. So that is Sam Mariano. And Sam Mariano writes very dark, unhinged, twisted type of romances. And she pretty much gets the point across in the very first several chapters of what this book is going to be about. And so if you have a lot of triggers and you can't get past those first few chapters, her books are probably not going to be for you. Like unhinged and twisted out there romances and you don't have a lot of triggers, Sam is wonderful. So the first book that I read by her, and the first book that I would suggest for everyone, is Untouchable. This is my special edition from Mystery Box. I'm obsessed with it, but this is a high school bully romance. And like I said, she gets the point across in the first few chapters. So our female main character, prior to the story starting, she was harassed on a date and she reported him. And because this is Texas football, they all decided to turn on her because this guy was benched. So when the story starts, that guy is looking for revenge because he catches her alone in the hallways and he happens to have his friends with her. When they're harassing her and everything, our male main character gets really turned on by her fear, asks them to leave the room, and the story goes from there. So, Untouchable, it's a fabulous read, okay? There's really nothing else to say. If you get it, you get it. That's all there is. So if you've read Untouchable, that's great. After that, you're going to want to go into the Coastal Elite series. So Even If It Hurts. I absolutely love this story. The male main character in this book reminds me a lot of Nate from Euphoria. So do with that information as you will. Step of this reminds me a lot of the movie Brutal Intentions because it's going to start off with a bet between characters that don't have the best intentions. So basically, at the very beginning of the story, our female main character wrongfully pisses off a really mean popular girl. And she has the male main character kind of wrapped around her finger. They have a promise to be together or something like that. And so she asks him to get the girl to fall in love with him so he can break her heart later on. Well, he obviously becomes obsessed with the female main character in really unhealthy ways. And actually, this is the first book that I have read where the male main character was so obsessed with her, he wouldn't let her have friends, not even of the female variety. So this book is total walking red flags, but if you love the escapism, it is great. So this is the setup to the Coastal Elite series. Now, you don't have to read these in order, but it's great to kind of get the backstory because Sam is currently writing a character named Hannah's book, and I feel like you need to read all of them to get Hannah's story. But the second book in this series is going to be a it's different actually. It's going to be between two parents. It's like a shorter novella. And then book 3 is a stepbrother, stepsister relationship of the kids from the second book. And then the third book is Surrender. And oh, I absolutely love this one. So in this story, what is really great is it takes place in California. And this one is in high school. And after graduation, these two main characters go to Boston for college. So books 2 and 3, they're going to stay in California. And then when you go to book 4, they are back in Boston. And so our male main character, he knows Dare, the male main character here. They're like friends in school and stuff. That book is great. And then this one is not part of that series, but it's a spin-off. So it takes place in Boston. He is also friends with those guys. But Brutal Ambition and Surrender have the same exact timeline. They take place the same nights. So if you kind of want to read them at the same time to see what's going on. But Brutal Ambition is going to be a secret society college dark romance, but it reads a lot the same as Surrender. I can't explain it, you guys. It's unhinged, it's twisted. There is so many red flags and so many crossing the line. Okay, that's really all there is to say about San Mariano. Okay, then next I have Pam Godwin, and I feel like a lot of people have read Pam Godwin, but I feel like a lot of people have also not read her. I always recommend to start with Dark Notes. This is a dark student-teacher romance, and what's really interesting about this one is that it's a music teacher. So it's kind of got a different type of setup here. Also, what's really interesting about this is that our female main character, she is really, really poor. Before the story had started, her dad spent all of his life savings to make sure that she could go to the school that she goes to, have all 4 years prepaid. And then he passed away. And so her mom and her brother are just really resentful of the fact that they don't have any money to pay bills and stuff like that. And so rather than being adults and getting a job, they kind of make her work. Well, because she's a student in high school, she doesn't have a whole lot of options. So she actually ends up selling her body to her male classmates. And so, yeah. So then we have our male main character. He is a music teacher. It's a very interesting read. It's a dark read. It's got a lot of emotions to it. It's got a lot of obsession to it. But if you really want to get the gist of Pam's writing, I suggest Dark Notes. And then if you want another type of taboo student-teacher romance, you can check out Lessons in Sin. This is going to be between a priest headmaster and a student. So she has pissed off her mom one too many times, and so for the remainder of her senior year, she sends her to a religious academy. Now, she doesn't want to be there, so she's basically going to take every route she can to get kicked out, including being overly inappropriate. And our male main character, he is only a priest because of things that happened in his past, and he feels like he needs to right some wrongs. So it's a very interesting taboo read, especially if you like reading those religious taboo types. This one is on KU. I do want to apologize. Not all of Pam Godwin is on KU, but I know for a fact this one is. After that, if you want something totally different, I suggest checking out Sea of Ruin. This is a historical pirate romance. I don't want to go too far into it because it's an absolute spoiler. But this is really great because our female main character, she's an absolute badass. She's a pirate captain. And then we have another pirate captain. And then the other male main character in this book is part of the Royal British Navy, and he is hunting pirate captains. So it's just fun. She gets captured by the Royal Navy, and yeah. Like I said, you need to go into this not knowing a whole lot because your jaw's just going to drop with some revelations. Also by Pam Godwin is the Trail of Sins trilogy. Now, this is a dark cowboy romance. Now, I feel like dark cowboy romances are kind of starting to make their way into the book community, and I think we can all thank Yellowstone for that. I read the first book years ago, and I don't know why I didn't pick up the other two. But I picked up the last two last month just because I was reading Yellowstone and I needed it. And what's great about this trilogy is it kind of has a lot of the setup to Yellowstone, where we have a family that is trying to defend their ranch. And Now, you need to read these ones in order because the setup of the first book, there's something very dark that happens in the prologue that basically follows all of our characters through these 3 books, where they are trying to right the wrongs of what happened that night. And so, like I said, if you want some dark cowboy romances, go check out these ones by Pam Godwin. Now, Pam also has some other romances. I believe she has like a male capture romance, like where the female has captured the male. That is very high up on my TBR right now. I just haven't read it yet, so I'm excited too. But like I said, if any of that Pam stuff intrigues you, because she writes a lot of very different types of dark romances, go give her a look. If you have stuck around this long, woohoo, we are at the last author. So, Carian Cole. I love Carian Cole. I think if you want some taboo romances that are absolute tearjerkers, that like, oh, you feel like these characters absolutely belong together, Carian Cole, seriously. So I think the best way to start with Carian Cole is No Tomorrow. This is my Mystic Box edition. I apologize, a lot of these are special editions. I love these books so much that I got the special editions. I really try not to buy books when I haven't read them because I don't know if I'm going to read them yet. And so the great part about all these indie authors is because a lot of them are on KU, I'm able to read them first, and then if I love them so much, I run out and buy the book. And so Carian Cole. So No Tomorrow is one of my favorite books, and it was one of my favorite stories a few years ago, and I still think about it. I think I actually need to reread it. So this is going to be a story between a woman that meets a homeless man during her lunch break, and the two just form a beautiful friendship and then a epic romance after that, just because she's so intrigued with him. He's the type of homeless man that, like, he chooses to be homeless. He could have all the resources in the world to go out and get a job, but he just likes the freedom of being able to go where he wants and do what he wants. She obviously is not all about that, so she tries to bring him things to make him better and stuff like that. But like I said, they fall in love, and then he disappears. And then he ends up making it big as a huge rock star. And she finds him later, and this is just going to be a huge push and pull. I believe this book covers like 18 years. 18 years. But if you love those kinds of romances, like right person, wrong time, where they are just trying to constantly figure out their stuff, this is a beautiful romance. Our main character had some mental health issues, so it was really great learning about that too. But I always suggest starting with this one for Carian Cole. And then if you want another tearjerker type, is The Lovely Return. This one came out about 1.5 years ago. This one was not my favorite. I really liked it, but like I said, I'm just so stuck on No Tomorrow. But The Lovely Return, ooh, this was such an interesting setup. So this is all about reincarnation. So when the book starts, our main character, he is taking his wife that he's absolutely in love with to the hospital to have their baby. And she ends up passing away in a car accident. And so he has just never gotten over this because she was his epic love. And so he just kind of becomes a recluse for the next span of years. And then our female main character starts off as a little girl who lives like a few blocks away. And she starts telling her mom that she needs to go be with her husband and stuff like that. Like, this little girl has all of these memories that she shouldn't. So that is the setup to that story. It's just lots of twists and turns. So if you like a reincarnation type of book, definitely go there. Another great one by Carian Cole, if you want something a little bit more different, we have Torn. Now this is the first in a duet. This is going to be a taboo romance between our female main character and her parents' best friend. He's kind of been her uncle for her whole life, and so you're going to get taboo themes here. And then the second book in this duet, another one of my absolute favorite stories. This is going to be a very different type of book, all right? So our male main character is the brother to the male main character in this book, and he is living like a hermit out in the wilderness by himself because he was badly burned and scarred as a teenager, and people just don't treat him with a whole lot of respect. In the prologue, when he is out in the wilderness one night, he ends up saving a teenage girl that has been kept underground by a kidnapper for a really long time. He ends up saving her, kills the guy, and she gets rescued. And then she has to go into like rehabilitation and learn how to be out in the real world. And so years later, when she's finally starting to feel better about like going out day to day, she wants to track him down and thank him. And this is just one of the most touching stories I have ever read. It is such a slow burn, but oh, it is worth it. It is an age gap of about 10 years, but just beautiful. So like I said, if you want some taboo but very heart-touching romances, Carian, great author. Now, I believe this duet has been traditionally picked up, but the rest of her books are indie. All right, huge thank you if you stuck around for this really long video. If you did, go ahead and drop a flower emoji, I guess, because it's spring. Yeah, I don't know. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm constantly looking at rain and gray. But anyways, I hope you guys found some great new authors to check out, maybe some new books to dive into. But yeah, I promise I'm going to get better at posting. I will be posting my February and March wrap-up combined later this week. I promise my bookshelf tour is coming. My camera died, so that's probably a good indication that it is time to shut up and end this video. Anyways, I was just saying my shelves are dusty. This is me not shutting up. Anyway, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!